put inside our own bodies as adults. We alone are responsible for that. As long as we do not get into other people's faces, as long as we do not do harm to others, the moment we start doing harm to others, then governments may have a role to prevent us from doing so. But if we do no harm to others, then I don't think the government has any business, whether it's absinthe or anything else, in ruling that we may or may not put it into our own bodies. We are adults. We have the right to make decisions about our own bodies. And it's an absurd transgression of human liberty that governments take it upon themselves to tell us what we may or may not put into our bodies. And in fact, by convincing us that they have a right to tell us to do that, they are opening the door to all kinds of other infringements of our liberties. And we are seeing those infringements of our liberties spreading out all around the world today. Far from becoming a free society, our societies in the West are becoming increasingly unfree. And I think this campaign to control what we do or do not put into our bodies are at the heart of this transgression of liberty that is now underway.
Well, surely you can understand, as I can, Graham, that there are certain substances that are addictive and damaging. And those you can understand perhaps being, in the purity of the argument, I guess you could argue for cocaine or heroin or whatever you wish, but really you can come to an understanding of why they've been legislated against.
Yeah, but you see, the problem is that the legislation actually doesn't work. If we wish to prevent people from taking harmful substances, then making those substances criminal and illegal and ruining people's lives and putting them in prison for up to 30 years for taking them, that's not the way to go. Look, we have a very clear example of this, which is the issue of smoking tobacco. Smoking tobacco is not illegal in our societies, but there has been a very effective and efficient information campaign which has persuaded adults that it is not in their interest to smoke tobacco. And as a result, we can look at the statistics. Over the last 25 years, there's been a vast reduction in the smoking of tobacco. This has happened without any criminal sanctions whatsoever. On the other hand, if you take substances like heroin and cocaine, against which there are massive punitive criminal sanctions, do we see a reduction in the use of those substances in our society? No, we don't.
No. What about alcohol? Why do you think...
Let me just finish on that. We don't see any reduction, and this suggests to me that our governments, as in so many other areas, are not being honest with us. They are lying to us about the reasons why all of these substances are illegal. It is really about control of the state over individuals that's going on here. A precedent is being set where the state, we ourselves, acquiesce and stand back and allow the state to intervene in this most intimate area of our lives, what we choose to do as adults. And once we allow that, then we're prepared to allow the state all other kinds of transgression of our liberties as well.
Alcohol.
Yes, well, there's another extremely damaging drug, which is extremely dangerous to human health, which is, of course, completely legal in our societies. Much more dangerous to human health than psilocybin mushrooms, for example.
Oh, indeed. Indeed.
Vastly more dangerous. What about the motor car? What about the tens of thousands of people who are killed every year on the roads? What about painkillers like paracetamol, which are entirely legal and yet are responsible for thousands of deaths every year? Take it further. What about what about knives? I mean, people get killed by knives. What about fires? Why aren't fires illegal?
But if you just stay in the realm of drugs, Graham, alcohol
yeah, but what I'm saying is that the principle that something should be made illegal because it is harmful to our health, this is actually not the real reason why drugs are being made illegal, because if it was, then other substances that are harmful to our health would be made illegal. We would not be allowed to drive in motor cars because those are harmful to our health. So the real reason is something else. It's about control. It's about certain individuals in our society who have controlling mentalities and who gravitate towards government. And they seek all kinds of excuses and reasons to control us. And that, I'm convinced, is what the war on drugs is really all about. It's certainly failed in its own objectives. It has not cut down the consumption of heroin and cocaine. It has caused a great deal of misery. If we really want adults to stop taking heroin and cocaine, then we need to provide them with information that is honest, that they believe, that is not corrupted and full of lies.
That's a very good point. Lied to once, then a person feels they were lied to each time. It's Robert in Texarkana. You're on with Graham.
Hey, Art Bell.
Hi.
All right, I got a question here. You guys were saying that in 2012 that we're going to be hit with a meteorite that might take us out, right?
A comet. I'm saying it's possible. I'm saying this is one possible interpretation of the ancient myths and traditions of the Mayan calendar, that there was a horrendous planetary cataclysm 12,500 years ago, and that it may be about to come back, and that a comet may be the agency involved.
Okay, now, we do have telescopes that, now, I'm not familiar with all the I don't even know what I'm talking about now.
Well, it's quite all right, sir. We kind of covered that. In other words,
we did cover that these objects approach the Earth very frequently without being seen by our leading astronomers, despite the investment of billions of dollars in astronomical technology.
Actually, the people that find these likely to hit Earth-type objects are the amateurs more frequently than the large telescopes. They're not looking for these things.
They're not looking for these things. No, I mean there is a study of near-Earth asteroids and of objects that might collide with the Earth, but it's woefully underfunded. It's one of the areas where our governments really do have their eye off the ball right now. Much more work should be done on making us alert to this danger. Instead of hating and fearing our fellow human beings, we should look at these massive objects, sometimes 10 or 20 miles wide, that are hurtling through space at tens of thousands of miles an hour, each one of which is capable of sterilizing this planet of all life in an instant.
And capable of doing it with no warning to us whatsoever. Graham Hancock is my guest. His book is Supernatural. Good morning, everybody. This really has been quite the ride. My guest is Graham Hancock, and at this juncture, you definitely want to know his book, Supernatural, Meetings with the Ancient Teachers of Mankind. If you've been sort of lit up by what you've heard this morning, I would imagine you'd want to make the trip to Amazon and get that one on the way. Speaking of on the way, we'll be right back. So perhaps the real message has been there all the time, encoded within us and unlocked with something like DMT. Graham, welcome back. It's quite a journey you've made from the beginning of your career to what you're talking about tonight. Quite a journey, huh? Yeah,
it is. It has been a journey, and I must say I do feel very, very, very lucky. I feel blessed. I feel privileged that I've had the opportunity to lead my life this way. I'm grateful to my readers for helping me to do it, because if people didn't buy my books, I wouldn't be able to fund my research and my journeys and my experiments and my adventures. I feel like a lucky man, a fortunate man, and it has been a process of evolution. You know, I started out as a journalist. I was the East Africa correspondent of The Economist back in the 70s and early 80s. I was totally concerned with current affairs, with wars and politics and famine and economics. And really the journey began with coming across in Ethiopia, which was on my beat as a journalist, a tradition that country, that Ethiopia, possessed the lost Ark of the Covenant. Finding myself in front of the gates of a mysterious chapel in the grounds of a great cathedral in the Ethiopian city of Aksum, a very remote city, where I met a monk who claimed to be the guardian of the Ark. And this really was the beginning of the whole journey into ancient mysteries for me, and it turned my life away from this prior focus on current affairs and journalism and into an in-depth inquiry into the mysteries of the past. And I wrote a book called The Sign and the Seal, A Quest for the Lost Ark of the Covenant. And from there, I went on to explore the mysteries of lost civilizations, to try to argue and present the evidence that there might have been a huge forgotten episode in human history. And finally now, in my mid to late 50s, I find myself exploring the mysteries of consciousness, and I find myself, because my ethic has always been that I must experience what I'm writing about, I find myself working with consciousness-altering plants such as ayahuasca,